Good to have you here. This is Omni View, episode 71 for June 4th, 2026. Multiple perspectives, one briefing. Let's look at the day's news from every angle. A new Israel-Lebanon ceasefire takes hold, even as Israel continues operations in southern Lebanon, testing whether the agreement can hold amid broader regional talks. Israel and Lebanon have agreed to implement a ceasefire to end hostilities, with the deal contingent on Hezbollah ceasing fire and evacuating fighters south of the Litani River. Despite the agreement, Israel carried out multiple drone strikes in southern Lebanon. The Trump administration announced the deal after negotiations in Washington involving the U.S., Lebanon, and Israel. The Guardian frames the agreement as a fragile step that could remove one barrier to wider talks involving Iran, while noting Israel's stated intent to maintain a presence in southern Lebanon. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun described the deal as a last opportunity after difficult negotiations that required U.S. intervention. Both sides agree the ceasefire depends on Hezbollah's compliance, yet they differ on whether Israeli operations can continue without violating the terms. The strongest case for viewing the ceasefire as progress rests on the explicit conditions tying withdrawal to Hezbollah's relocation, which could reduce cross-border attacks if enforced. The strongest case for skepticism rests on Israel's immediate post-agreement strikes and its defense minister's statement that forces will not withdraw or allow population returns. Advocates on each side concede that enforcement mechanisms remain untested. The question worth considering is what enforcement steps are outlined for monitoring Hezbollah's withdrawal. Shifting now to domestic politics in Britain. Reform UK received £9 million in private donations in the first 3 months of the year, more than twice the amount raised by Labour or the Conservatives. The largest contributions came from cryptocurrency investors Christopher Harborne and Ben Dello. The Guardian reports the figures as evidence that Reform UK is drawing significant support from high-value donors in the cryptocurrency sector. Both sides agree on the reported donation totals, yet they differ on whether the sources signal broader voter appeal or concentrated financial backing. The strongest case for seeing the donations as a sign of growing strength rests on the party outpacing established rivals in a short period. The strongest case for caution rests on the concentration of funds from a small number of individuals tied to one industry. Advocates on each side concede that donation totals alone do not determine electoral outcomes. The question worth considering is how UK donation disclosure rules compare to other countries. Now, to really understand this story, there is something most coverage leaves out. In the UK, parties must report donations above a certain threshold to the Electoral Commission within set timeframes, after which the information becomes public. The system relies on self-reporting by parties rather than real-time independent verification, and cryptocurrency donations are treated under the same rules as other contributions once converted to pounds. Knowing this, when you hear claims about record fundraising, you can check whether the totals reflect many small donors or a few large ones by reviewing the Commission's published registers. Next time you see a headline about party funding, ask what is the disclosure threshold. When will the next report appear, and does the source separate one-off gifts from recurring support? Meanwhile, markets reacted sharply to overnight moves. SoftBank shares fell more than 11% following an overnight sell-off in U.S. markets, driven by wider profit-taking in the technology sector. CNBC presents the drop as part of a broader market movement rather than company-specific news. Observers agree the decline followed U.S. tech sector selling, yet they differ on whether the move signals a longer correction or a short-term adjustment. The strongest case for viewing the decline as routine rests on its alignment with simultaneous moves across other technology holdings. The strongest case for watching closely rests on SoftBank's history of large swings tied to its investment portfolio. Advocates on each side concede that single-day moves often reverse without lasting effects. The question worth considering is which SoftBank holdings are most exposed to recent market shifts. Turning to another technology name that has drawn investor attention, ARM Holdings' share price has nearly doubled in recent weeks, pushing its valuation to levels rarely seen for companies of its size since its 2023 U.S. listing. Bloomberg notes that the rapid rise has placed ARM among the market's most expensive stocks by traditional valuation measures. Observers agree the price increase has been steep, yet they differ on whether current earnings justify the premium. The strongest case for accepting the valuation rests on ARM's central role in chip design across expanding markets. The strongest case for caution rests on the speed of the price increase outpacing visible revenue growth. Advocates on each side concede that technology valuations can remain elevated for extended periods. The question worth considering is what revenue growth would be required to align with the current price. In Australia, a separate legal matter has drawn notice. Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who was praised for disarming one of the gunmen in the December Bondi attack, has been charged with assault after allegedly putting his father in a headlock in March. The Guardian reports the charge as a separate incident from the earlier public recognition. Both sides agree the alleged assault occurred in Bankstown and is distinct from the Bondi events, yet they differ on how the new charge affects public perception of Al-Ahmed. The strongest case for separating the two events rests on the different dates, locations, and legal contexts. The strongest case for public interest rests on the contrast between prior praise and the current allegation. Advocates on each side concede that court proceedings will determine the outcome. The question worth considering is what details have been released about the March incident. Shifting to cultural news, Marjan Satrapi, the Iranian-born author of the graphic novel and film Persepolis, has died at age 56. The work offered a personal account of Iran's Islamic Revolution. Deutsche Welle presents Satrapi's death as the loss of a prominent voice in graphic memoir and Middle Eastern literature. Observers agree on the cultural reach of Persepolis, yet they differ on how its personal lens shaped wider understanding of the revolution. The strongest case for her lasting influence rests on the book's translation into multiple languages and its adaptation into an award-winning film. The strongest case for noting limits rests on the necessarily individual perspective any memoir provides. Advocates on each side concede that literary impact is measured over decades. The question worth considering is which aspects of Persepolis reach the widest audiences. Before we go, tomorrow watch for further updates on enforcement of the new Israel-Lebanon ceasefire and any related regional diplomatic moves. That wraps up today's Omni View. Remember, the best informed people read more than one perspective. If this show helps you do that, share it with someone who values fair coverage. See you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the Nera Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Models and Agents a listen, your daily briefing on AI models and agents. You can explore the whole lineup at neuronetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.